if you lead with the right people, you'll always get the best outcomes. Whereas if you try and lead with having all the best of breed tech or all of the best of breed this, or processes that you've copied from whichever group you think writes the best processes, but not having the right people to implement them and shape them for your business, you'll never get the best outcomes.
You said you're all about combining tech with people. What does that actually look like day to day in your role?
If you're feeling weak mentally, it's really hard to be physically strong and do stuff because you're feeling down. If you're in really bad shape physically, you're not going to be as good mentally. You're just not as good as dealing with stress as you are if you're in better shape and look after yourself.
It's a messy world. AI, global uncertainty, tight budgets. How do you begin to prioritise what actually matters when there's so much going on? How do you get a security strategy that works?
If you lead a team, you really do have to understand just how much you can impact the people in your team positively and negatively.
You talked about the challenge of security, and that's why it excites you so much, but just that nature, the constant change, makes it incredibly high pressured. Is that why mental and physical wellbeing has been so overlooked in security, do you think? Welcome to Momentum, a Business Leaders Accelerate podcast, where we speak with the leaders reshaping business from the inside out. And today's guest isn't just a security leader, he's actually a really passionate advocate for team culture, well-being and performance, something we don't always see in CISOs. Kevin Fielder is CISO at NatWest Boxed Mettle, where he's responsible for security, risk and delivering a technology experience that actually works for people, not just systems. We're going to be talking about what it really takes to build high-performing, resilient teams in a very stressful sector, how security leaders can actually stop firefighting and start planning, and why looking after your people might just be the most strategic thing you can do. So Kevin, great to have you here.
Hey, thank you. Glad to be here.
So you are about the human side, really. You said you're all about combining tech with people. What does that actually look like day to day in your role?
So it's my roles are like a lot of kind of leaders. I've got a thin veneer of knowledge of quite a lot of what my team does. I've spent more years than I care to admit doing kind of various tech and security roles. So I've got a reasonable amount of knowledge, but I always kind of say that anyone in my team who's probably a mid or even a junior engineer in their specialism is going to be better at their thing than I am. So part of the role of being a leader and getting the best out of your team and looking awesome because your team does great work is to actually lean into your team much more. So for me, I always think if you get the right people with the right attitudes and wanting to row in the right direction, then the other stuff will all follow. So we'll get the right tech choices and the right policies and the right procedures and whatever else because I've got the right people and the right team and the right culture. So I really focus on trying to build that part, because then I'll have the right experts doing far better than me at their stuff to make me and the rest of our business look great, because we do a really good job of security because I've enabled my team to be really good. So I think if you lead with the right people, you'll always get the best outcomes. Whereas if you try and lead with having all the best of breed tech or all of the best of breed this, or processes that you've copied from whichever group you think writes the best processes, but not having the right people to implement them and shape them for your business, you'll never get the best outcomes.
Have you always sort of had this people first mindset, or how has it sort of developed throughout your career? So probably through some hard learnings.
Yeah, I think it's developed. So I first started off doing kind of technical roles. And really enjoyed, even before I got in security, I liked security because it was that kind of us versus them, and it's always changing. I like to learn, I like to evolve. I always think if you look at, say, I don't know, maybe doing finance or something else, obviously things change and businesses change, but once you kind of understand the rules, it probably doesn't change every day and doesn't has that high rate of change, right? Whereas with security, you always got to keep abreast of the latest attacks, the latest vulnerabilities, what the miscreants are doing on the internet, whatever else, right? So I've always quite enjoyed that, and I always thought I wanted to be like deeply technical and spent a lot of time doing technical project roles and architecture roles and hands-on type of roles. And then as you do, you kind of evolve and mature into other roles or other ways of thinking. And I started leading small teams and then larger and larger teams. And eventually my last 3 roles have been CISO roles. So like leading, various size but entire security functions. And my current role, I manage security and what we call colleague tech services. So all of the kind of enterprise computing, laptops, emails, all of that kind of good stuff as well. And I kind of realized as I did that I really enjoy helping people. So obviously I love security and I love kind of providing an excellent service and helping ensure security really works with the business and as part of the business. But I've discovered I really enjoy looking after people and building high performing teams and having teams that feel good and having teams where that's psychologically safe and all of those kind of millions of buzzwords you can use, but a team where people look out for each other. I'm always really proud if I see members of my team looking out for each other. So a lot of my job is build the right team, help give them the right tools, help get stuff out of their way that, might be blockers, help ensure people have our stuff as the right level of priority and things, but then let them do the awesome work. Whether it's building our strategy, I expect them to be telling me what's next and what's the most important thing next and helping me understand that to day, what's in the next sprint or whatever else. So I think I just fell into it really, but I found as I grew and started running teams and bigger teams, whatever else, that I really am passionate about looking after people. And that's the bit I enjoy, or one of the bits I enjoy most about being privileged enough to lead teams. And it is a privilege, right? You're helping, obviously you own a function within a business, so whatever size that is, you own or are accountable for a thing, which is quite a privilege and responsibility in itself. But you're also helping shape people's careers, right? If you give people that career growth and ability to learn and grow in their role, they may move on to another role in somewhere else or in your org or whatever else, but you've helped them grow and help their career. So you're actually, in many ways, you're nurturing and helping people's careers, especially more junior folk that need that extra guidance and help. So it really is a responsibility that I think people don't always realize how much of an important thing it is, and how much a bad manager can give someone months, weeks, years, whatever, of really poor experience at work. And that's 35, 45, 50 hours a week, whatever it is you work, of your life. It's a big chunk of your life. And if you have bad management and bad team culture and a bad vibe at work, that's a lot of time when you're not feeling great and you're not getting the best out of yourself. And especially when the economy's a bit worse and it's hard to look for new jobs and whatever else, you might not want to move because you've got the safety of having been somewhere a while, but you might not be happy there. And it really can bring your whole life down. We've all had that role that wasn't great. How much did it affect the rest of your life? How much did it affect how you are with your family or your partner or your friends or whatever else? Because such a chunk of your life is not good. So we really are responsible for helping people's, shaping people's lives, careers and everything else. I think it's, I'm going on a bit, but as you can probably tell, it's something I really think is important. And I think if you lead a team, you really do have to understand just how much you can impact the people in your team positively and negatively.
It's such a huge part of our life work, and I think that whole mental, physical well-being is so impacted by the people we work for, to be honest, isn't it? Most people leave a bad manager, don't they? That's why they leave the role more than anything. Yes, we might be chasing a higher salary and more responsibility, but ultimately the biggest reason people leave roles is because of the people who are in charge of them. So it's great to hear CISOs talking like that. I mean, you talked about the challenge of security, and that's why it excites you so much, but just that nature, the constant change, makes it incredibly high pressured. Is that why mental and physical well-being has been so overlooked in security, do you think?
Well, I think it's probably why it being overlooked is a bad thing, right? I think, it's really because you get a lot of, it's one of those careers where you'll get a lot of people who are quite passionate about it and genuinely care. So they really want to do a good job. They worry about what they're doing. They worry about, is your organisation safe? Are your customers safe? Whatever else, right? So people who want to work in the field will often really care about it and really care about doing a good job, but then that means you can worry a lot. And I think the one thing is, obviously we're all busy and it's a busy field, and but we're not special. We're not the busy. There's plenty of roles that are really busy and there's plenty of roles that are high stress. But I think one of the things that separates out some roles a bit like this is because something can happen at any time. So if you're not able to turn off, if you're not able to talk about stresses and pressures, if you're not able to understand that your outside work affects your inside work and vice versa and everything else, you can be that person who is worrying what's going to happen all weekend, because you can. It's that the breach never happens at 11:15 on a Tuesday morning when everyone's in the office and it's all right, let's go guys, we'll be finished by 5. It's 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning or whatever else, right? And it's so you can spend your whole time worrying because you're never done. It's not one of those jobs that can finish. You're never perfect. No organization is perfect. No nation state is perfect. Nothing is perfect, right? So there's always work you can do. So no matter how hard we work, you can work 24/7 and you won't be finished. So it's really easy to get into that thing of, worrying about this, there's that vulnerability or is that issue, or this thing hasn't been fixed, or we haven't patched that, whatever it is. And then you worry about what happens if someone attacks us. So it's a kind of thing where you do need to understand that and have ways of turning off. And I think within the business and the organization, helping people be able to talk. I'd like to use an analogy like you've got a bucket of stuff you can deal with, right? But it's not like you have a home bucket and a work bucket. So you've got all the work stress and everything else. But say you're having a really stressful time at work, there's less in the bucket to deal with home stuff. So you need to be able to talk to people outside of work and get a bit of leeway then. Equally, if you're having a really stressful time outside of work, you've used up a load of your bucket before you start dealing with work stress. And it can be good stress. It can be like planning a wedding or moving house, or it doesn't have to be bad stress like illness, whatever else. But it's anything that's taken away from that bucket gives you less to deal with. So having an environment where people can talk and it's open, and I like to talk about things. If I'm feeling challenged or whatever else, I'll tell my team I'm stressed with something, or I'm worried about something. something, or my son's not very well, so I didn't get much sleep last night, or whatever it is, and I'm very public about the fact that I do school runs a few days a week and that kind of thing. So I block out time in my calendar for doing the school run, and it's leading by example and showing that rather than pretending you're not doing it or pretending you're always working is a really good way of then showing your team that's okay. So my team know if they need to have, they want to go to the gym at lunchtime, or they've got a school run, or take their kid to the doctor, whatever else, they never have to worry. It's not something that's going to be like, oh, how much time are you having at the office doing that? So it's building that kind of culture where people can talk, people look out for each other, people realize that stress affects us all, and it's better to talk about it and say if you're worried about something or stressed about something, whether it's other people in my team, my director talking to me, or people in my team talking to me. It's again a real sign of a healthy team when people can tell you about their struggles. And that's half the thing. We can't not have stress, but we can have an environment where you can talk about it and be open about it when you're struggling. That I'm not going to be at my best the next couple of days because I'm not feeling great or whatever else, or I'm feeling great this week, let's go. You all cover for each other because it might be one person in the team struggling a bit, but someone else is feeling great, and it all balances out over time, all pulling your weight and all doing a great job without having to worry that I've had a bad week. And then the physical side, which is my kind of hobby outside of work, training and coaching people and stuff, is again really important, because the more healthy you are, the bigger that bucket is, the better you can deal with stress in terms of talking to people and whatever else, but also having interests outside of work and being healthy. The healthier you are, the more you can deal with. So that bucket of what you can deal with gets bigger by being more healthy and being stronger and being fitter. Not like, oh, really, you have to be like mad for the gym, but just generally being healthy. So training, looking after yourself, trying to eat well, trying to get sleep. And trust me, I've got a 2-year-old. It's not always easy. I'm quite lucky he sleeps pretty well, but trying to get sleep, trying to get rest, trying to look after yourself a bit, trying to be reasonably healthy, all helps you have a more balanced life. And training gets rid of stress, right? You pick up a weight or go for a run or whatever it is you enjoy doing. It's a great way of stress relief. So you're relieving stress and building up your ability to deal with more stress. So it's like a double win. So I think that the two all go together. They say, the stronger the mind, the stronger the body, stronger the body, the stronger the mind. It all goes together, right? If you're feeling weak mentally, it's really hard to be physically strong and do stuff because you're feeling down. If you're in really bad shape physically, you're not going to be as good mentally because you're just not as good as dealing with stress as you are if you're in better shape and look after yourself. So it all goes together. And so just little things like that, if you're a manager, walking meetings. So I quite often do one-to-ones and that. If I'm not having to look at a screen, it's just to catch up with someone. I'll have my headphones on and go for a walk sometimes, or do it together. But we're remote first, so it'll be more likely to be a call rather than a thing. But encourage people to get out for walks. It's a beautiful sunny day today, so do a walking call. It doesn't have to be go and spend hours at the gym. Just get out in the sun and walk for some of your calls.
Well, I mean, that was going to be my next question, but you answered it there. Was what does supporting your team's well-being really mean beyond the token perks and the, I don't know, free mind apps that your work might provide? You're sort of saying you've got to walk the walk yourself as a leader and share that you're doing that, share the weak moments, the quiet, the sort of stress moments with them, and what you're doing to strengthen yourself. It was very interesting what you the words when you were describing the role of security, where it is one where you need to be hyper vigilant and you need to be catastrophizing almost to do your role. And yet we now know what we know about mental health is that living persistently in that state is incredibly dangerous. And you've got a real challenge there with your teams to never let it get where people can't control it. And yet if you switch off too much, that's when the catastrophes happen, where everyone's always saying, what if the bad things don't happen? Think that way. And you're like, I can't think that way in security. I have to think about the bad things.
Yeah, and it's our job to educate people, right? So you might have heard that one of the things we do is a thing called threat modeling, where you kind of go through basically a system and with the people who are building the system and all the ways you could do bad stuff to it. People naturally think happy path, right? So they don't think what could I do, or what would a malicious insider do, or whatever else. So we don't just have to think the bad things, we have to educate other people on how to think defensively and build systems that are secure by design or whatever else as well. But I think part of it's that you have on-call rotas and whatever else. So if you're not on call, we're not expecting you to do anything. So it's great if like one of my proudest moments, there was an incident in a previous role, and it was like, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night or something, and there was people from my team who weren't on call jumping on to help the guys that were on call, just voluntarily, not because they had to, just because they had more skill in those areas. And I was like, that's so good. They're supporting each other. It's brilliant. So you're kind of there if you need to be, but if you're not on call, you don't have to be like that vigilant. So it's just that turning off and realizing that we have a team and we have people with accountabilities. And once you've left, you don't have to be worrying, and you don't need to, because it's not on you, right? It's not you, it's a team sport. So I guess that's another good thing to think about, right? All these things are a team sport, not a one sport or an I sport. It's more like it's a rugby match, not a boxing match. We're there to win together, but if one of you needs a break or whatever else, there's other people to cover you.
Okay, no, good. I mean, you did also mention that building the high performance culture being how, if you are modeling how you prepare to deliver a high performance, that passes on through your team. Where do you see leaders get this wrong when they're doing it?
There's probably not leading by example. So if you're the 24/7 always on person, I, for example, my email's got a little signature saying, I've sent this at a time that's convenient for me. I don't expect a response outside of office hours or whatever as part of my email signature. But it's those kind of things where it's especially when you have flexible work, and you will get people working funny hours. Once someone in my team's got a new baby and they got woken up at 3 a.m, like, I can't get back to sleep. I'm going to do a couple of hours work now and then have a sleep in the morning. And as long as they're not working from 3 a.m. until the end of the day, and they are moving things around, it's totally fine. So it's helping people understand like that flex. So allowing the flexibility when people need it. Obviously, you've got to be available for certain meetings, whatever else, but be as flexible as possible. That's I'm giving examples of how to do it right. I know, not wrong, but so it's not having that, not allowing flexibility when you can. It's setting a really bad example, either by being always on, or the converse of running off as soon as the day's finished and then not being available when you're a leader. And part of our role is to be a bit more available, right? So not being available, working all hours and expecting all hours from other people and expecting immediate responses to things that are either not urgent, or you send an email on like a Sunday evening. It's like, well, does it need to be sent then? Does it need a response? So, some good tips. Obviously, either make it very clear that you send messages at times that are good for you, but you don't expect a response, or schedule things so they don't get sent at funny times, right? Either works. I think you can easily belittle people as well, and the way you talk to people. So empowering, not empowering people. So kind of micromanaging, telling people how, is going to demoralize any team, right? And as I said, my team knows far better than I do how to do their stuff. There's no way I have the same expertise in whatever area as someone who's living and breathing that area of my world. Not empowering your team, micromanaging, telling people how rather than the goal is really bad ways to get the best out of people, because they're never going to excel. If you're not feeling empowered, if you're not feeling like you have some autonomy, you're not going to give your best, because like, right, I've got to do this thing. You end up like some sort of, when you get butt up against these people who are, you're on a help desk, so you phone up, whatever company, and they've got a script, and there's some poor soul that's taking the brunt of a really pissed off customer, excuse my French, or a really unhappy customer, and they've got a script. And you can tell. And it's like, I had some issue with my credit card and some stuff that wasn't fraud being called out as fraud. And I was like going through it, and I'm going, this is not a red flag. This shouldn't. And the person's just going, you can hear them reading down a script, and they couldn't deviate from it or admit it wasn't awesome, or admit some of the steps that were complete theatre. And I was like, I explained to them, this doesn't give you any benefits doing this. And they just go, oh, we've got to do the steps. So those kind of things aren't ever going to get high performance.
No.
They get consistency if you're doing a help desk or something, but they're never going to get high performance because you've not allowed people to think or own or have autonomy. So anything where it's micromanaging, telling people the how, not allowing people to have autonomy, not empowering them or trusting them, is never going to get you sort of good performance, and it's going to demoralize your team.
Yeah, exactly. And when you come across a problem at work, you want to be able to provide a solution, not be, well, I've got to do it this way because that's what they've told me to do. There's no room for maneuver. There's no room for thinking logically around it. And you're right, it's very demoralizing.
One other thing, sorry to dive quickly, is that kind of blame culture, where people are blamed. So that's the other one that I think is a surefire way to get people just acting really defensively and not doing their best, is when they feel like they're going to get in trouble. No one's perfect. No organisation is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes sometimes, right? So if we make a mistake, whether it's because an individual made a mistake, or because the process is wrong, or the tech is wrong, or whatever else, the response should always be, how do we learn? How do we do better next time? How do we help ensure that you're not under pressure and make that same mistake next time because we built a better system? Those are the things, because you often find when you look at a team, if there's been a high rate of errors, and you're like, oh, well, they're all so rubbish or whatever. And then you look under the hood, it's like, well, actually, they're a team of 6, but 2 people are off sick, one's on holiday, and they're all massively overworked. And we haven't given them any support. Those are the kind of things where it's like, you look under the hood of the why something happened rather than the what it was. So yeah, that's sorry, just another thought I had, which was around that, and blamey kind of cultures will never ever get the best out of people.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I want to talk now about the actual environment that you're working in. It's a messy world. So AI, global uncertainty, tight budgets. How do you begin to prioritize what actually matters when there's so much going on? How do you get a security strategy that works?
I guess it's a combination of understanding. There's some things you always have to do. Understand what you've got. Where is it? Is it managed? Is it patched? Monitoring environment. So certain things you kind of know you need to do. That are kind of security 101. So I always think kind of year one, once you understand the environment, is especially if it's a newish team or a newish function, there's a lot of obvious stuff. So there's very little argument about things you need to do, because it's just kind of security 101 things to do. And then after that, as you get more advanced, or you've got budget challenges or resource challenges, then it gets more interesting and more nuanced. But it's also being pragmatic, right? And part of what we do is helping the organisation understand the risks, so the organisation can make appropriate decisions. Because obviously accepting a risk is a valid treatment for a risk, right? Or accepting it for a period. So part of what we do is, there's a thing called the CISO mind map, that if if any of your listeners Google it, it doesn't necessarily cover every single thing everyone does, but it kind of gives you a picture of just how many things security teams worry about, because it's a lot more than people realize, I think. And there's a lot of what we do isn't visible. So, things, security operations, all of the monitoring they do, largely invisible. But it's really important to our ability to detect anything that goes wrong and respond to it. But it's not something that's part of the product you sell, or unless you're a security company, or part of the product you're building. So a lot of things we do is quite invisible. So yeah, there's a huge amount of stuff, and it's understanding, I guess, what's your organization position, what's the kind of threat landscape for your organization. So what are the main threats to your organization, not just security, but understanding where you sit in that, the overall kind of risk landscape for your organization. Where is your organization? Is it super new, young, small, high risk, high growth? Is it a more bigger staid organization that has a very low risk appetite? So understand your organization's risk appetite and the environment they're in. If you are new to market and you have to get stuff out the door, or you will not succeed, you're likely to be an organization that will take more risks than one that's already very entrenched in a industry vertical. Because if you don't succeed, it doesn't matter how much security that you've done, you don't succeed and you've gone, right? So you have to understand that landscape as well, and then work out what are the biggest issues and kind of rank order them as best you can, and then work out how much you can deliver in the next 12, 18 months, whatever, based on what budget you can have, what your risk appetite is, what your resources available are. But then be clear about what you're not doing. So your organization understands, here's a load of things that we do have to do at some point. We're not doing them now, and we're accepting those risks. And that's part of the role. It's not, we're never going to fix everything. So helping people understand what risks we have, and what risks, by not fixing these things, we are accepting as an organization, so that your leadership and your organization's leadership understands the risk world they're in. They then aren't surprised if something happens, because they know which ones we said, look, we can't fix that now. So we're accepting risk X for 6, 12, 18 months, whatever, because we can't fix everything at once. So helping people understand that is one of the really important things. And then that way you can kind of bubble up, where do we need to get to, and what risk is the organisation comfortable carrying for the next period while we do these things first. And there's never a one size answer, one answer. That's one while there's a bunch of things you have to do as a security function, the order you do them in, how mature you have to get to in each one of them, how quickly you have to do them, how much resource it takes versus, do you insource it, outsource it, automate it, manual type, whatever else, varies from organisation to organisation, which is what makes it interesting. Because although it's kind of like, oh, you've got to monitor stuff, you've got to patch stuff, you've got to do JML or whatever else. So it sounds like you can list off all the things, but all of those things vary dramatically from organisation to organisation. So it's never the same thing, even if it's the same list of things. If that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, and I suppose when you explain it, it sounds really simple. It's like, explain
Yeah.
to them what we can afford to do, what we can't afford to do, and then they need to know that if that goes wrong, they've sort of signed off on that. But that sounds great, but the reality is, when someone is outside the security bubble and you're telling them all this, and they're going, well, we can't afford that, we don't have time, we don't have budget. How do you really get them to understand the kind of situation they might be putting themselves in if they have to put that off, or so on?
So that's where the sort of business context is really important. So a big part of our role is helping people understand, because businesses understand risk, right? Especially if you're in financial, anything regulated, you understand risk. And most other businesses have risk. A lot of, especially once you get beyond medium-sized businesses, have risk functions, right? So they understand risk, and they understand finance, and you understand their business goals. So you talk about security in those lenses. So what's the business risk? So it's not a risk of SQL injection, hacker this, cross-site scripting, whatever else, right? Which is really interesting for us. But what's the outcome? So the risk is a whole lot of our data ends up on the internet, and these are the things that could lead to that risk materializing. So this is how we manage that risk.
You have to speak the language of the business, really, to get anything through.
The risk is regulatory censure, or fines, or loss of market value. They understand that. Loss of consumer trust, whatever else, right? So they're the things, and obviously more and more, especially like, I work in financial services currently, so we have to be trusted. So if you work with a client, they expect you to have good security. They expect to be able to trust you. They expect their customers to be able to trust you, whatever else, right? So trust is another good one. So being a trusted brand, those kind of things. So talk about, how we get product out the door more quickly. And obviously not just in security issues, but in terms of building things, the sooner you fix stuff, the less it costs, right? So if you have something that comes out and a feature doesn't work and it's being released, everyone's seen the feature not work and it's horrific amount of time and effort to fix it. If you find the feature not working at the first test, or as soon as the developer's written it, because you've got testing as soon as they're writing or whatever else, or soon after that, it's much cheaper to fix. Same security issues. So the more we can help people design things securely and build them securely, the faster we can help you release, and the faster we can help you get things out the door. So talking about speed of releases and speed of delivery and lower cost fixes, those kind of things. It's just all that kind of, how do we help the business? How do we part of the business? How do we enable the business? how do we ensure we're a trusted brand, all of those good stuff. So it's, if you talk in that kind of language, people understand that. You never have to talk in detail about the type of breach or the whatever else. It's the outcomes that people understand, and this is how we manage that risk or how we get to that good outcome.
So you're kind of doing a lot there as a CISO. The role, is it shifting? Is it becoming more strategic, or is it you'd love that, but it's actually just becoming so overloaded?
No, I think it's both. You very much have to be fairly strategic because you're talking about budgets and planning, right? So even in a fast moving kind of startup environment, you still have to have a plan for the next period. So you have to have a strategy and a plan. You have to have clear goals because they're the goals that help you get the budget and get the resourcing to deliver stuff, right? So you agree, these are our goals. This is the maturity we need to get to. These are the main issues we need to fix, however you couch the language. And in order to get there, this is what we need to do to get there. And that's your 12, 18, 24, 36-month plan, depending what your planning horizon is as an org. So you have those things. Even if you only say a 12 to 20 to 18-month plan that you maybe publish, in your head you're still going to have that you would agree with your team and maybe some other key stakeholders what that looks further out, right? Because that's how you're planning to get there. What's your resource planning for the next 2 or 3 years? What's your run rate cost, whatever else. So you do have to have that strategic view. You also have to have that view to be able to engage with the business. The business is going, right, we need to grow X times by this in this period. Because every business has got a plan, haven't they, of some sort? So how do I align to that plan? Another term we use quite often is scale appropriate. So what was okay from a security and risk management perspective when your organization has 100,000 customers might not be appropriate when you've got 10 million customers. So your what your security needs to look like or your business process and whatever else need to be scale appropriate and grow as your business grows and change and evolve as your business grows. You have to be strategic, but you also have to be able to then go down into the more detailed lens. So I also have bi-weekly sprint planning with my team to understand exactly what's going on, what's happening in the next sprint, how are we aligning all of the actual project work we're doing to our project goals and whatever else. So we have, I guess, at high level, you've got your, I can't know the screen, but you've got your big kind of long-term strategic plan. Then you've got your 12-month plan, which is this is next year's budget and next year's ask for what we need to achieve. Then you've got your kind of projects, which in our world, they get broken down in what we call epics. And then the epics get broken down into sprints. So you basically got kind of a big project to program, smaller projects, and each project gets broken down into 2-week chunks of work. That's how we work. So we're kind of a more agile way of working. So you have right from the details what we're doing in the next 2 weeks, right up to what we're doing over the next few years. And obviously, the further out it gets, like any strategy, the more vague it gets, and the more it's going to change over time, right?
I want to talk now really about sort of lessons learned. Obviously, a lot of what you've been talking about is stuff that you have learned and employed into the way you work as a leader. But could you share a moment from your career, particularly when it was a cultural well-being issue that really made a difference, when actually looking after people paid off in a way that potentially could have surprised others?
Yeah, I guess it's I mean a good recent one for my team. So we do it didn't pay off in terms of a specific instant, but we have a thing we call our view, which is like the survey of your teams of how they're feeling about work and everything else. And we've put, myself and my security leadership team have put an awful lot of work into building career plans for our team, helping the team understand better their roles and responsibilities, helping them all understand the training opportunities that are available and whatever else. And our scores have gone up dramatically. So for me, it's the proof of it. While it wasn't a specific incident, we are incredibly busy at the moment. We're NatWest Box, you've seen in the news, has recently gone live with our first big client, and it's really high growth. It's getting new product out the door. So as with any kind of, effectively although we're part of NatWest, we're effectively a startup. So it's a hugely busy, hugely stressful time, building really awesome, interesting stuff that's right at the kind of forefront of embedded finance. And we're still managing to have our teams generally, but sort of my team specifically, because I've got my explicit scores, are still managing to feel safe and empowered and looked after, and like they're getting career opportunities and whatever else. So all of the work we've put into helping them have have the team members have career plans, helping them have goals, helping them understand where they need to get to for the next promotion, ensuring people are getting supported, and all of that stuff has clearly paid off, because despite it being both a combination of security and startup and all of the stress and all of the chaos and all of the speed of delivery, I've still got a team of people that are really proud and happy to be working where we are and feeling like they're looked after and feeling like they're empowered. So for me, that was a huge win. Seeing that those come out recently, I was like, that's amazing. Despite all of this stuff, everything that's going on, we're still looking after our people and making them feel good.
Yeah, because I'm sure many people listening will think of times of when they've been in that key stress moments at work, no, they are well aware that that element of their career, their future is not being considered, because it's almost like that's not the crocodile nearest the canoe that the organisation's dealing with, and you've got to have that going alongside all the time for people to feel secure and happy in their roles. So no, it's a definite win. So you've worked in different industries in your career. What is something maybe that you've borrowed from one world or one organisation that has helped you thrive in another, do you think, or could you share?
I don't know, I wasn't ready for that question. So I think there's been throughout my career, there's been kind of pivotal moments and people, I guess. Early on there was a lady, I'll name drop her, Cheryl Nixon. She worked at Ocado when I worked at Ocado many years ago. I found at the time I don't remember, it was 20, 25 years ago, something, I think. So I was fairly new into the world of work, and still that kind of like slightly young, naive person that would get easily frustrated. I was a 25 25 year old guy and easily frustrated with things. And she would ask these really seemingly annoying questions that were basically proving that you understood stuff. So it'd be like sometimes really annoying. I'd get really frustrated by it at the time. But looking back, it was one of the most useful things that ever happened, because she really made you ensure you understood what you were doing and ensure you could explain it properly and everything else. And it's one of those things where at the time I wish I hadn't found it so frustrating, because I could have probably learned even more. But in hindsight, it was a really clever skill, because she basically made you explain stuff and answer those slightly annoying questions to prove that you had thought things through and that you were going to be getting the right outcome because she's actually given it enough thought. So I guess asking those seemingly dumb questions, like I'll sometimes start with, I'm not, I'll sometimes, even if I think I know the answer, I'll ask people about stuff sometimes just to make sure that they can explain it and they've thought through different variations of what we're going to do, to make sure that they've done enough thinking to make sure that that outcome is going to be the right outcome, and we're going to get to the right outcome with whatever solution it is they're proposing. So that's probably really good learning. Sometimes play a little bit dumb, and sometimes ask those questions, because it's not necessarily about you getting more detail. It's about making sure the people who are going to do the work have thought it through, so they've done enough detail, so that they succeed and it helps them succeed. It's like you say, if you can explain something to someone who doesn't understand it, it really proves you can understand it. If you can only explain it to people who already understand it, do you really understand it? Because
Yeah.
you can't use normal words. You've got to use weird acronyms and all the other stuff to explain it. How well do you understand it? So that kind of thing is, I think, really powerful to help people. It's like five whys or whatever, right? It's probably the a noddy version of five whys, but it's helping people ensure they understand stuff really well, so that they can then crack on with what we know is going to be the right way of doing it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I totally get that. I remember when I first went into business and my background was in newsrooms, and I went in and people would be using all these terms across the table. And I would say, sorry, could you just explain that word to me? And you get this look of panic. Because
Yeah.
no, I just use it because everyone else uses it and I don't actually know what it means. So,
Yeah, so it's those kind of things. Yeah, so just delving into delving into stuff a bit more than you might expect is a really useful skill, I think.
absolutely. Well, I want to shift gears now and do what we like to do, which is a quick fire round. So it's just say whatever pops into your head first. What is the one thing you wish more people understood about working in security?
I think that it's super rewarding. It really is. So if it's a really rewarding job, because you get to help protect stuff, right? So I work in finance, so I'm actually protecting people's money and people's data. That's important, right? It's the data held by any financial institution could be used for ID theft, could be used for fraud, whatever else. So we're genuinely keeping people's assets safe. Whatever it is, wherever you work, so you genuinely actually help protect stuff. It's super broad. You don't have to be technical. So there's loads of roles that are not super technical. There is quite a lot of technical roles as well, but don't think just because you haven't got a super technical background, you can't do it. If you've got a passion for helping people, if you've got a passion for learning and evolving, security may well be for you. So yeah, just one of the most rewarding industries you can work in, I think.
Excellent recruitment commentary there. I like that. I think we can probably all guess, but what's your favourite way to switch off after a long day? Fling a weight around?
Yeah, so there'd be two. I'm going to cheat and have two answers. So yeah, I love the gym. I coach some fighters outside of work, so I do like strength and conditioning with a few fighters, and just really enjoy it. It's totally the opposite from work. I'm going to say like gym bros, but some of them are girls, so it's not all bros. But it's high fives, it's hugs, it's fist bumps, it's shouting, it's jumping, it's lifting weights, it's throwing kettlebells around. So yeah, it's completely opposite from work, and it's such a good stress relief and such a good camaraderie. It's like getting in the trenches, right? If you've sweated with someone and bled with someone and lay on the floor ruined with someone, that builds bonds, right? And the other there's the other one in my cheating, giving you two responses, is just my family. So I've got a 9-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son, and an awesome wife and stuff. So time with the family is really valuable to me as well.
Wife and stuff, love it. What's your most used app on your phone that isn't your
Don't ask me
email?
that. It should be, right? I want to say something wordy
Biggest
like
one.
my Kindle app because I read nothing but non-fiction books and always learn, but it's probably Instagram because I scroll too often. I try not to do it too much, actually, or Slack because work we Slack a lot at work. So it's probably Slack for work and Instagram for being pointlessly scrolling are probably vying for my attention on my phone.
Good tip. I haven't been on Instagram for a month.
Don't
A
do it.
month.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
mean,
I do debate getting rid of it at times, but I've got quite a lot of friends on there, so it's sort of useful.
yeah.
Semi.
No, that's the bit I miss is obviously the people that you like, you want to know what
Yeah.
they're doing, but yeah, you miss a lot of the other stuff, which is great. So if you weren't working in tech and security, what do you think you'd be doing instead? Obviously in a gym.
Probably what I nearly did when I was at university. I tossed up between computing and doing sports science at Loughborough,
Mm.
so I could easily have ended up doing coaching and stuff. I think it's one of those things that I really enjoy it, but I really enjoy it as a hobby. So I often talk about it. So, when you've got a hobby you love, and then it's like, but I could do this all the time. But then when you had to get up every day and do it, would you love it as much as when it's something where you don't do it as much as you want to because it's your hobby and you wish you could do it more? So I don't know if I'd like, because I love it and I love coaching, but it's like a little side thing that I do for a few friends and family, and that's it. And I really want more, but would I love it as much if it's 9 to 5? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's a joy. Like you don't know how the sausage is made, so to speak. With that, it's not like you know everything about it. Sometimes when you then learn all that, it can take the joy out of it a
Yeah.
little bit. I think with particularly if you've got a hobby. I really love yoga, and I used to love it more till I did some training in it, and actually took away a bit of the love because then I had to be constantly analysing how I was doing it rather than just be in the moment. So I completely get what you mean. Thank you so much for talking to us. It's been a really refreshing conversation. You've been really open. If people want to keep up with what you're working on, the things you've been talking about, what's the best place to find you?
So I'm Kevin Fielder on LinkedIn, pretty easy to find, or I'm Kevlar Strength on Instagram if you want to see the sports stuff I get up
Kevlar
to.
strength. I love it.
That was one of the guys. It's like they just called me Kevlar, so I was like, because of training with them and that. So I was like, oh, that's quite a good name for a coaching brand.
Yeah, it is. Very Gavin and Stacey, but also meaning you're very strong. I like it. Well, that's it for this episode of Momentum, a Business Leaders Accelerate podcast. If the conversation got you thinking about how you lead, how you support your teams, or how you plan for the future, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're enjoying the series, do leave us a review or hit subscribe. I'm Clare Forestier. Thanks for listening. And until next time, keep the momentum going.
Cheers, all.